Hey everyone, sorry my internet glitched out right at the perfect moment there. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Micah Crowdy, the head of writing at Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. There's a link to check out Arc Studio in the description. Today I am joined by a very special guest, Pietro Schito, an animation writer, producer, and the founder of Write for Animation. Pietro, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We're going to have a great time. We're going to be writing. We're going to be talking about writing. We're going to kick things off in just a second by looking at some script pages and talking about Finding Nemo and what kind of lessons we can learn from there. But before we get into it, I want to know out there in the audience, where are you and what are you writing today? I love seeing people from all over the world working on their scripts and different creative projects. So please get in the chat and let us know what you are working on today. If you're new to Let's Write Scripts and you're wondering like what this is, and I'll say this for Pietro too, because it's his first time with us, we're going to be doing 3 timed writing sprints. And during those timed writing sprints, you can work on your own creative writing project, usually scripts. It's undirected prompts because we're all at different parts of our projects. But there'll be a timer up on the screen. Pietro and I will be muted and we'll go off to the side and play some music. It'll be pretty chill. And yeah, you can just like use that time as a dedicated, window just to give to your writing. And it's going to be pretty great. And then during the breaks in between the sprints, we'll come together, chat about our writing, and Pietro and I will answer screenwriting questions from the chat. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will answer them in the breaks in between the writing sprints. And of course, if you're feeling it, please like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on all notifications. And during the second break, we're going to do something. I usually do a little bit called the sandwich of the week, where I show a picture of the best looking sandwich that I made this week. It's just something we do here because we love sandwiches. But it's going to be a little different today. Instead of a sandwich, I have another delicious food item that I had that I'm going to be sharing with that. So I'll say that I am in Los Angeles, and I'm going to be working on a pilot idea that I've been developing. Pietro, can you say where you are, what you're writing today? And can you also share a little bit about yourself and your organization, Write for Animation, so our audience knows who you are and what you're up to?
Absolutely. So my name is Pietro Schito. I'm Italian, and I moved to Mexico about in my 20s, and then from there got a scholarship to study in Los Angeles, and then got back here in Mexico. So I'm in beautiful Guadalajara, and I'll be writing on a series that I'm developing with an amazing team, and it's an animated series. I cannot say much, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm on my first draft. I've been working on polishing some scenes, and the beauty of animation is that while I'm writing, while the script is not even finished, there's an entire team working on character designs, concepts, and that is really the beauty of writing for animation. And if you think there's a difference that on the script level, it's not really there where you find the difference. It's more in the community and the way we collaborate. And that's what led me to create Write for Animation, which is our community on YouTube, mainly, where we get together with the top talent in the animation industry to share practical tips and insights in the screenwriting process, the storytelling process as a whole, and also the industry, the animation industry. Even if you're not into animation, I think you're gonna love it because we have a lot of people from Pixar, Disney, Netflix, recently Sony Animation with K-pop Demon Hunters, which I think it's a great script to study. And so you're welcome to check out the video. There's a lot more, but maybe we'll get back to that later.
Yeah, and I think there's a link to the channel in the description if you guys want to check out some of the stuff that Pietro has done. And yeah, I mean, I feel like animation is such a great area for learning storytelling because it's just like it's such pure storytelling. And like, I think a lot of my guests have actually talked about the Michael Arndt videos that you can check out about like what he learned about storytelling from Pixar. And that's like something that I would recommend for anyone. I just want to check in with the chat. Loving seeing people from all over in the U.S., Northern Virginia, South Carolina, Fitsum in Ethiopia, working on a rom-com. That's awesome. Linnea in Las Vegas, new here. Welcome to our first timer. Hope you have a good time. Learn some things. Maybe you have some progress in your writing today. Yeah, and Linnea, just so you know, you can ask screenwriting questions, and during the breaks for the sprints, we will answer them. Deborah in Paris, Natalie in Leeds, England, John in the exotic New Jersey. Lots of people from all over the world joined today. So exciting. Oh, here we go. Norway. Working on a sci-fi dark space story for indie animation short movie. Oh, great. So some animation people in the house. That's so great. I am excited. And William is seconding those Michael Arndt videos. Pietro, I'm assuming you've watched those.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was in LA studying at the New York Film Academy, and we got to get some, to visit some studios, and the studios I was going, to visit often. One of the director of photography was working at Pixar, and for me it was a live action studio, but this guy from Pixar was around, and so for me it was super interesting to get to know him, and they were all that they would tease me, not tease me, but there was this DVD with a video of this secret masterclass that was being shared around secretly under the table, that was recorded at Pixar. And everybody was telling me, Pietro, this is amazing about how to write an insanely great ending. You have to watch it. But it seemed like I could never get my hands on this DVD, so I never got to it. But people were teasing it, and that was the exact masterclass that he has on YouTube now. So he then went on to produce it, but it used to be a class that he gave at Pixar, and the one on endings, it's called, I think, Insanely Great Endings, or endings. The good, the bad, and the insanely great, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Really, I think it's still the best piece of content about screenwriting that you can find, especially about endings. And maybe we'll get back to that when we go through the pages of finding.
Yeah, I think that might be a good transition. Welcome also to Gerhard in South Africa and Sai in India. It's so cool to see people from all over the world come together because their love of screenwriting, of storytelling, and just really like the need for creative collaboration, a creative community, which is really great. One of the things I love about Let's Write Scripts, and Pietro, I'm assuming it's a similar thing in Write for Animation, where the community and the support aspect is just as important as the craft aspect of it. But let's get into the pages actually here. So we are going to be talking about Finding Nemo, and we're going to do a little reading here to help start us out. Pietro, do you want to talk about page by page, or kind of go through all of the pages you mentioned and then kind of talk about it as a whole?
I would go in sections, and because
let's do this one first.
Mm-hmm. And start with a brief introduction. This is a mix of things that I've learned from the many interviews and talks from Andrew Stanton at Pixar, and also a great analysis from another screenwriter, Craig Mazin, that he shared, plus some material from some books. And I think it's a great example to show how you could think about your film in simpler terms. Simple doesn't mean easy. It's not like it's going to make your life easier in terms of actually figuring out how you get to that simplicity. But that said, it's really about, movies are just about one thing. Sometimes we try to cram a lot of things. And Andrew Stanton went through a lot of iterations of the script and going back and forth and changing things. But the end result is absolutely amazing. And hopefully we'll be able to share some perspective that can help you with your film. I think this works for almost any film that has a traditional structure.
That's awesome. So yes, if you're just joining us, this is Let's Write Scripts. I know some people like to join late. We're going to take a little moment here to look at some pages of Finding Nemo, and then after we talk about them and what kind of lessons we can learn from them, we'll jump into our first writing sprint. So we'll do the 15-minute writing sprint. But first, we're going to do a little reading here. I'm going to read the scene description, and Pietro is going to play the role of Marlin.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Exterior, an enemy home, night. Marlin scans the darkness. Nothing. Looks down. The moonlit grotto remains silent. He moves cautiously towards it.
Coral?
Looks in. It's empty. Marlin begins to shake. Calls out once more, hoping.
Coral?
No answer.
No.
He swims aimlessly, all alone, stunned, when he looks down and notices a single fish egg lying exposed on the sand, quivering on a ledge below the grotto. Marlin rushes to it.
There, it's okay. Daddy's here. Daddy's got you.
Gently, he cradles the egg in his fins, turns it over. The other side is scarred, but intact.
I promise I will never let anything happen to you, Nemo.
That's
Okay,
awesome. So this is our
Yeah, go
first
ahead.
scene. Let's just like set it up, just in case people haven't seen the movie in a while. What happens before this is that Marlin and his wife Coral have a whole bunch of eggs that Marlin is very protective of, and a scary fish basically comes and attacks them, and Coral is killed, and the eggs are almost all destroyed except for what we discover in this scene.
Yeah, and that is such an important scene that has to do with the center of how you can structure your film. That it is all about the transformation of a character, and that starts believing something that is not true, that is preventing them from living a fulfilled life, and then going through a journey that basically twists the knife over and over again, and to change that misbelief and help them understand what is the truth that is going to allow them to have a more fulfilled life. And in this case, you have your protagonist, Marlin, that it's a little apprehensive at the beginning, but it would never work if there's not this trauma at the beginning. And I would like to introduce like three elements. One is the ghost, the idea of something traumatic, an event that causes your character to believe something that it's not true. And Andrew Stanton, the writer and director of the film, tried so many times to have all this backstory or this traumatic event spread out throughout the movie. So you would start watching Marlin looking for Nemo, and every now and then you would see a flashback, and little by little you would understand what happened. And he shares that wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work, because you need your audience to fall in love with your protagonist and understand why they believe something it's not true. So until he decided to start the movie with this very, very tragic event, then you're on board. Then you're with Marlin. You really understand why he's so overprotective. You would too. I mean, I would. This is a murder of all the siblings and the wife. So it's for your protagonist. So it's that tragic event. Sometimes the ghost is not in a prologue or a scene, but at least for us as writers, we can think about, why is my character believing what they believe, even if it's not true.
It's also interesting because I think this is a good example of the power of animation as well, because if this happened in a live action script where a human had all of his children and his wife murdered, except for one who survived with a scar, that would not be a children's movie. You could not show that. That would be a rated R or NC-17 horror movie. But with animation, you have a little more freedom to explore some of these ideas that, like, if you did it in live action, would be too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the audience.
That's why it's really, really brutal what happens to him, if you think as a parent. And so you understand this little one egg, and plus, how they really twist the knife. Like, if he's worried about going out there, adventure, then the only one also has a problem with the fin, which makes Nemo even weaker and exposed to danger in the ocean. So they really find everything is around what is the thing that the character believes that is not true. So it's the lie that will guide his philosophy of life throughout the movie. And interestingly enough, we won't read that scene, but they pair, and they do this at Pixar brilliantly many, many times, they pair Nemo with Dory, which is the complete opposite. And she embodies the opposite of being so worried about the future, because she cannot even remember stuff. So
yeah. One other thing I just want to point out in the scene is the final line, Marlin, I promise I will never let anything happen to you, Nemo. That this is one of the great things that like you could understand in this scene that like Marlin clutching the egg and like you'd be like, okay, he's going to be protective of this egg. But like one thing that dialogue is really good at is crystallizing the idea that the audience has already been shown and experienced. So you already sort of get, even without that line of dialogue, that Marlin would be very protective of Nemo. But by putting the line in at the end, it just very much like solidifies, crystallizes. It just makes it so clear. All right, the rest of this movie is going to be about Marlin trying to fulfill this promise to his son that he will never let anything happen, to him.
Yeah, and it's a setup that we're about to read. It's payoff of that specific line, so it's super interesting how they planted that there.
Did you want to talk about the other two? You said three things: the ghost.
Oh yes, it's the ghost, the lie that's the misbelief the character has, and then the truth that it's what they need to discover to have a fulfilled life, which in this case it's the opposite of the lie, of course. In some other films, when you have a protagonist that they embody the truth from the very beginning, that it's a different structure where what changes is the world around them. But most of the films, and I would encourage any screenwriter that's starting out, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Embrace the simplicity of this kind of storytelling and really get deeper into the simplicity of this transformation of your protagonist and create everything else around it. So it's not like the design Dory and out of the blue and then suddenly everything fits. Of course, it's a process that's gonna involve many rewrites, but at the end result is a character that embodies the exact opposite of the belief of the protagonist. So the ghost traumatic event, the lie, what is the thing that the traumatic event has led them to believe that is false, and the truth is the truth that they're gonna discover at the end of the film or before the third act, and that will make their life better. And it's interesting. One thing is to discover it, but it's a whole other thing to practice that in your life, and that the revelation. And it's before the third act, and the third act, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. One other thing before we jump on, just point material in context about Marlin's line at the end. He says it to his son, so it's still show don't tell. It makes sense he would verbalize that promise to the egg, his son, which is, I think, really an important point, that like when you're saying things for the audience's benefit, you have to say them in such a way that like they make sense organically in the story, right? Because otherwise it could just very much feel like it was kind of tacked on and or just shoehorned in there for the audience. So like making it feel like it fits in the story makes sense. Pietro, I think I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Yeah,
anymore.
Let me change to my backup. I know this could happen, so sorry. It's my camera's been
no worries.
Funky.
All right, so we're gonna jump ahead up to page 109. And I'm going to read the scene description here and Dory, and then Pietro will continue as Marlin. Are you ready, Pietro? Are you good?
One sec. Okay, ready.
All right. Without warning, the mammoth tongue leaps out of the shallow water, thrusting Marlin and Dory up near the roof of the mouth. They're in a whale right now. They hang vertically from the taste buds, screaming.
What is going on?
I'll check. What?
No more whale. You can't speak whale.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. You think you can. You think you can do these things, but you can't, Nemo.
Marlin catches himself, goes quiet. The tongue reaches its peak. They dangle high over the whale's undulating throat. Again, the whale moans, so loud the fish shake from the reverberation. Dory listens intently, nods. Okay.
Dory.
Marlin grabs her by the fins. She still clings to the tongue. He says it's time to let go. Everything's going to be all right.
How do you know? How do you know something bad isn't going to happen?
I don't. Beat. Marlin looks down at the bottomless throat, gulps, and lets go. The tiny orange and blue fish tumble down to the dark esophagus. Then water erupts from every direction, filling the frame, rushing upwards. No more Marlin, no more Dory, just water. Exterior, Sydney Harbor, night. The whale breaches the surface, shooting a jet of water from its spout. Marlin and Dory are thrown high into the air. They pop their heads out of the water.
We are alive.
All right, so what do we learn from this section, Pietro?
So here, and I was looking, I think I missed a part where that line we talked about comes back. Let me find it real quick. So if we go back, I don't know if you can scroll to 107. So I forgot to highlight it for you, but it says, Dory says there, it's all right, it'll be okay. No, it won't. Sure it will, you'll see. No, I promised him I'd never let anything happen to him. And Dory says the truth. That's a funny thing to promise. What? Well, you can never let anything happen to him, then nothing would ever happen to him. And so that is the payoff from the line we had before, and it encapsulates the entire theme of the film. And it's interesting that, you know, they're literally in the belly of the whale, so it couldn't be more archetypal than that. It's also they're there because it's the first time that Marlin has trusted Dory, because previously, so let's just go back very quickly and trying to summarize what brought us here. So the movie is a series of moments where Marlin, our protagonist, is battling with this conflict between the truth and the lie. So sometimes, some scenes he will try and expose himself to what could be an alternative way of living, which is represented by Dory. So for example, with the jellyfish, his stubbornness causes Dory to get hurt. He doesn't trust Dory. Or even before, you know, you have the sharks, also the most emblematic, dangerous creature. And Dory wants to, talk with the sharks. It doesn't make sense, of course. They get there, and it seems like these guys are actually friendly. And so, you know, the misbelief gets reverted. How do you say it in English? Reverted on Marlin. He thinks that, they're terrible creatures, but they actually seem very nice. But then, if you remember, there's a moment where they slap the mask, the mask on the nose, and there's some blood, and so that makes the sharks angry, and that's also going back to confirming what Marlin believes. These sharks are dangerous, and so it's all the time. It's ups and downs, like positive and negative. Is this true? Is this a lie? And so with the jellyfish, he doesn't trust her. She gets hurt. Now this time with the whale, he's of course hesitant, but finally he decides to test this new philosophy and trusts her. And of course, the result seems to confirm that he was right, because now they're trapped in the whale. And so the entire film is playing with those concepts all the time. And in this scene, we really get to the core of the discussion. You have the two positions, the lie and the truth, against each other. And this dialogue is brilliant. I encourage you to go back and watch it and see how the whole situation, even letting go, because he's hanging, I think he's holding onto the tongue, and he has to let go. And if you see how many times they talk about letting go, the fact that he needs to open himself up to a different way of living, this is such an important moment in the film.
Yeah, and obviously this line here, no, you can't. You think you can do these things, but you can't, Nemo. Like,
that's a
ties. A brilliant line, like timing it exactly that, like what this is all about. Because your things, your story, oftentimes like it can be easy to sort of get lost, like as to what exactly you're talking about, because you just have your scenes. But like all the scenes are about something. They're all about advancing the story, and getting at the ideas that you want. And so it's very much just saying that, like, everything that's happening here, just letting go, right? It's all about Nemo. It's all about his relationship with Nemo, even though he's with Dory. Dory is just kind of like the stand in the character that allows him to go on this journey, because as you mentioned earlier, how she is the exact opposite of him. So she's going to be like pushing him in all these situations that force him to grow. And that's like an important thing in screenwriting, is that, like, to remember, your characters don't want to grow. Growth is painful. Growth hurts. So you have to figure out ways to force them to grow. And like going on this journey is forcing them. Pairing up with Dory is forcing him. So all these situations are being forced to do that. Shall we jump to the end?
Yes. Let's
All
go.
right. So I'm going to go to 132 to finish off the story. All right. I'll play Nemo and all right.
I'll do Marlene.
So, yeah. And all right. So Nemo studies the net, thinks fast. Dad, I know what to do. Without hesitation, Nemo swims straight to the net. He is smaller than the holes. Marlin grabs his tail, tries to pull him back.
Nemo, no.
We have to tell all the fish to swim down together.
Get out of there now.
I know this will work.
No, I'm not gonna lose you again.
Dad, there's no time. It's the only way we can save Dory. Marlin catches himself, realizes what he's doing. I could do this. Sorry, I forgot what I'm doing all these parts. Marlin stares into his son's eyes, nothing but confidence.
You're right. I know you can.
And then 136. Nemo's barely visible underneath the tangled fishing net piled on the ocean floor.
Oh no, Nemo.
They race down to him, push the heavy net off. Nemo groans.
Nemo.
Flashback 6 years ago.
It's okay. Daddy's here. Daddy's got you.
Marlin's fin gently cradles the egg, turns it over. The other side is scarred but intact, matches off to the present. Nemo's eyes flutter open, a weak smile of recognition. Daddy?
Oh, thank goodness.
Dad, I don't hate you.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry, Nemo.
Nemo offers his little fin. Marlin reaches out, touches it, smiles.
What I find super interesting about this is that the entire journey gets to a point where Marlin finally embraces the truth. And that is the moment of revelation of a character. And I think that that's not discussed enough in the screenwriting world, how important it is to not only have the character realize things and just move on and now everything is the final battle, everything is okay, but on an external level, but to really have like one last temptation of the lie coming back and luring, and kind of like the world telling your hero, okay, you discovered this new truth. Well, okay, let's see if that's true. Let's see if that's actually, and again, it's really archetypal because we are going back to this father willing to risk after having crossed the entire ocean, after having battled many different creatures, adventures, and he gave up in all this lost moment, and then finally finding Nemo. Now there's this story puts that new belief under pressure with this situation where Dory gets trapped, and so it becomes this culmination of also a father sacrificing the son, and literally Marlin sees Nemo as dead at the bottom of the ocean. And that moment, that flashback, it's amazing. I think that where because you see a dead fish for a moment, and then you see that very first scene when he opens his fins and you see, it's okay, Daddy, and that is here. It's okay, Daddy's here. Daddy's got you, and they do a match cut, and of course he's alive. And but that is the very last moment of twisting the knife, trying to see if the character has really learned the lesson. And so
yeah,
it's amazing.
One thing that I always talk about on the show, is like another way to talk about story, is like the character's want versus their need. And so what Marlin has wanted throughout this movie is for Nemo to be safe. He wants to get his son back. He's discovered. And so in this section here that we're looking at, he has got Nemo back. He got what he wants, but what he actually needs is the growth and to let go, right? To trust his son, to let him go. So you see a direct conflict between what he wants and what he needs here. And that's kind of like that last temptation you were talking about, where it's like, okay, are you actually going to sacrifice potentially what you want? Or not necessarily sacrifice, but are you willing to risk the thing that you want for the thing that you need? And in this situation, Marlin does that and is rewarded, because you can kind of think about endings as like four. Like if you think about the want and the need of a character, that gives you like 4 different types of endings, right? They can get what they want and what they need. They can get neither, or they can get like one, but not the other. And that kind of gives you like a 4 quadrant system. And in this one, he gets both. So it's the happy ending, right? It's the sweet ending where he gets what he wants and when he gets what he needs, but it's not easy. And he has to basically put at risk what he wants in order to sort of earn that happy ending.
Yeah, and it's also about, this film brings over and over the question of what is the worst that could happen to my character. So it's like, what is the worst that can happen to a father there who is very worried and made that promise? The kid gets kidnapped and brought to the other side of the ocean. So that makes it an impossible mission from the very beginning. And here is like, okay, what is the worst that can happen so that he is able to prove that he can fulfill the need, what he really needed since the beginning. And then they explored different options and came up with this. So I think that it's a great film to rewatch and analyze as a script, and that's why I decided to bring it up in the session.
No, that's fantastic. A couple things in the chat. Gerhard saying, when we were talking about this earlier, Marlon's beliefs are being challenged by characters who think differently, and it's really interesting. I think this is a great point, Gerhard. That's exactly right. And also, never think of characters as minor characters. Think of them as supporting characters, because they're there to support the story. They're there to have a role in the story. It's not just like you could dismiss Dory as just the comic relief because she's funny, and she is the comic relief. Like she is funny, but it's not just that. She is there because she is going to be challenging Marlon's belief through what she says. Like they're going to have their arguments, but more potently, more powerfully through just her actions, creating these situations that are going to be uncomfortable. So it's just like inherent to who she is. Anything to add on that, Pietro?
No, I think you summed it up brilliantly. I would encourage Gerard that thank you for your comments. I've seen Gerard on different events and always leaves comments on our YouTube channel as well. And but also the fact that you can start seeing the same patterns in other movies, like just within Pixar. Think about Luca and Alberto in Luca, or think about
Buzz and Woody.
Buzz and Woody, yeah, also, and they're not all the exact same this way, but there's much more than comedic relief or having a sidekick.
Oh, sorry, comedic relief, yeah. Sorry, I was
no, but also
challenging views,
I think also in, for example, Inside Out, we have the misbelief of the fact that Riley needs to be happy all the time. And so you pair joy with sadness, and throughout the journey, sadness is not much of a comedic relief, but it's the same narrative weight that Dory has, because she represents the truth that and it's not a formula that you can just that's much more than this, but it's just that the idea that if you have someone else in your story, don't just put someone that because they are cool or because they're going to be super funny. They should be helping and serving the central dramatic question for the film.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to jump into the writing sprint in just a second, but one more question here from Natalie. Can I just ask, are stage directions and subtext supposed to be more like bullet points or full sentences? So Natalie, I think the answer is yes. And this is why I always encourage people to read a lot of scripts, because stylistically you are going to see so many different approaches to screenwriting. And in some, they are more like bullet points, and in some they are very discursive, so there's a lot of different styles. It kind of depends on what you're writing and how you're writing it. A simple rule of thumb is like less is more, I would say. And that you really, there's a lot of stuff that you're writing oftentimes for yourself because you've thought of it, and so you want to put it in there. But really you only need to put in the things that are necessary for the reader, the things that the reader needs to know for the character and the story. But like you can't give any hard and fast rules about like how to write action and description lines, because you can, as soon as you say something, you can find 10 great scripts that do the exact opposite thing. And then again, also animation, there's different styles. Pietro, how would you describe, is there a kind of a set style for action description within animation itself?
That's the thing. One might think that it would be much different because in animation, there's absolutely nothing. There's not even actors. You have to create everything from scratch. That said, is the same rules or absence of rules, because I think in general, I imagine, Micah, you experienced this as well in Q&As. People tend to worry so much about the formatting. And we're here at Arc Studio. The software, like a great screenwriting software, can take care of that. Read scripts, don't worry about it, and don't worry. It's like someone starting a business and obsessing over the business card design instead of thinking that trying to make it work. That said, it's Natalie. That's a super valid question, and I know how frustrating can be seeing different people telling you different things. But in animation, it's actually very similar. We want the reader to focus on the story. Finding Nemo, we read some pages. The description is very simple. And in animation, the beauty is that you have an entire team of story artists and concept designers. So as you're writing, you start seeing those things. And I think we have kind of a superpower, and also they make us look much better. Some of the greatest animation moments that you've seen that maybe that make you emotional, they didn't come from the screenwriters. They came from the story artists. And so there are some differences more in the team and how you collaborate, but on the page it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we're going to get into our first script. Garrett, I see your question about, just to say quickly, yeah, I think you'd say it's a buddy comedy. I think that's a broad category, but that doesn't limit what it is. But sure, two people on an adventure, and oftentimes in buddy comedies, you'll have a journey over the script where they start off actually not really as buddies, and they sort of grate on each other, and by the end, they appreciate each other. But let's get into the first writing sprint, because we are writers and that's kind of what we're here to do. So again, if you're joining new and you're wondering like what this is, I'm gonna put a timer for 15 minutes up on the screen. Pietro and I will be muted and go off to the side. I'm gonna play some music, and during that 15-minute sprint, it's just like a focused, like Pomodoro method kind of time for you to just work on your script or whatever your other writing project is. And it's the intro. It's 15 minutes, but like we've been thinking about this, our brains are warmed up. So like, whatever. It's oftentimes you're going to be free writing at the start, or reading what you were working on before, just to get your head in the game. And then we'll take a break, and then we'll do some more writing after that. So I'm going to play some music right now, put the timer up for 15 minutes. Pietro, you ready to write?
Ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Here we go. 15 minutes on the clock. We'll catch y'all on the other side. Okay, and this brings us to the end of the first writing sprint, and I just try to like have that be a chill transition because that's a very vibey, chill spa mood. Welcome to, if you joined during that writing sprint, this is Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio, the best screenwriting software in the world. I'm the head of writing at Arc Studio and a WGA screenwriter, Micah Craddy, and we are joined by a special guest today, Pietro Schito, an animation writer, producer, and the founder of Write for Animation. I want to know for everyone, how did that chat go? How did that sprint go? Get in the chat and let me know. The Muse is with us today. Are you struggling with anything? And if you were struggling, or like, is there anything specific that you have questions with? Because you have Pietro and I here to answer some of your questions. So if you have general questions about screenwriting or something maybe specifically in that sprint that you were struggling with, get in the chat and let us know. Pietro, how was that sprint for you?
It was good. I was able to let go of, I tried to write without thinking and judging the page. So it's pretty terrible, but I love that it's terrible because it's so hard to let go of that part that tells you that the first draft is not good. And
Yes.
A couple of funny things came out, and so I was very glad.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things there. One, I mean, like vomit drafts, we talk about that a lot on Let's Write Scripts, that the ability to, it can be so paralyzing to write bad things because you know what you want and you're looking at your page and that's not what's happening. And so you get frustrated and you stop. But if you allow yourself just to not worry about it and get it out, two things happen. One, you can revise it later. And two, you start to surprise yourself, like you were saying, because you're just writing and you let go and suddenly you're thinking of things you never would have thought about. So yeah, pretty exciting.
How about you? How was your session?
It was really good. I have this idea that I've been developing. I'm kind of working on someone else with it. And I'm kind of doing it's sort of a showrunner person that I'm collaborating with, and I'm kind of doing the bulk of the work on it right now. And I had we talked about some stuff and they liked what I was working on, but they just kind of had like a big note kind of a thing that was sort of blowing things up a little bit. Like it just stopped me in my tracks for like a while, where I just kind of stopped. I was just started thinking about other things. So I'm just like that. I just don't know how to handle that thing. It just seems very fundamental and weird. And it wasn't wrong, I'm saying, but I don't have a handle on it. And so and again, it's also just like not having thought about this in a while. I just started free writing about it. And within like 3 sentences, maybe found out the solution to the thing that's like stumped me for months, basically. So, I mean, we'll see. You know, there's sometimes you're like, oh, this is it. And you're like, oh, that wasn't it. But yeah, so that was great. And just to, we've got a couple of questions here. First off, Terrell had a nice 2 pages just south of 400 words. Linnea was having fun there. Fantastic. Glad you guys are here. Gerhard has a question. Have you ever written a script with a certain actor in mind? I tend to go back and forth. Like the last movie I wrote, I had a specific, it was a female lead, and I had a specific actress in mind, but like she didn't stay there. Like, I think it's good to sort of think about people and picture them, but like often I find, at least in my own work, that the character sort of ends up becoming their own person. And that what I'm picturing in my head isn't necessarily exactly anyone that I know. They kind of become unique for me. Pietro, what about you? Are you picturing actors in your
sometimes
head? Or voices if it's animation?
Yeah, it's more about the personality. And I remember, when I was studying in Italy is very much about theory and a lot of you get sold the idea that to be a good writer, you need to be really about knowing the classics and knowing literature, and then for character construction, yet you need to learn psychology and these archetypes and all these categorizations. And then when it comes to writing, actually for the screen, you realize that it's more about understanding human nature. And so instead of trying to find exactly what kind of personality traits scientifically and psychologically a character has, I remember that a great writer, director, and producer from Cartoon Saloon, a great animation studio from Ireland, he was sharing on one of our interviews on Write for Animation that he pictures people from his life, because he knows that as long as he's able to picture someone that he knows, it will be authentic. So it made me think a lot about the all this idea of I need to be literate, I really need to learn about psychology and all those things. And recently in another interview with the co-director of K-pop Demon Hunters, she was sharing how some of those the three characters were inspired by characters from other shows, and that's another interesting thing. It's not only the actress, but also the character that play in those shows. And so that inspired me to think about some characters specifically from The Simpsons that could be close to what I'm writing right now, to kind of get into the personality. So I'm kind of playing with that idea and exploring myself.
Interesting. Cool. Question for Ryan with an E. Pietro, maybe you could take this one. How do I know, or take the first stab at it? How do I know if I need to take something out of my script to make it read tighter?
Well, when it comes to the heaviness of reading, like the reading experience, then as always, less is more. Read a lot of scripts and find, if it's your question is more about how lengthy the description should be, I noticed that what helps me a lot, especially in animation, sometimes we really need to think a lot visually, and that could take a lot of space on the page that distracts the reader. I do 2 copies, one copy where I really extend, or I have a different document where I really get into that. If you're asking more about story elements and scenes that could be there, I think that it's always tricky. It's one of the hardest things to do. Again, less is more works. But also I would like to provide a different perspective. You always hear this idea of you have to cut. If a scene doesn't advance the story, you need to be brutal and always cut it. And yes, that's true. I would say 99% of the times. But also sometimes you wanna experience a scene, a moment, just because of the beauty of that moment. You wanna stay in that moment. And I've seen in animation, we do animatics, which are videos where you see the storyboards played with temporary voices. We call them scratch voices. And sometimes I notice that this principle of cutting, and being too fast can, take away from some moments where you want to stay there. You want to take a moment to breathe. So it's really hard to. I don't know if you, Micah, have any.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's kind of 2 different ways of thinking about this, because it's like, one, are there just scenes that could be cut? And the other thing are scenes that can be shortened. And those are kind of 2 different things. I do really like that you mentioned the thing about sometimes your script needs to breathe and sometimes you need to take a moment. And that, like, in a lot of things that you watch, you'll see that, like, there are scenes where it's just the character sometimes just like sitting on a mountainside, and if you follow advice, you'd be like, oh, cut that. Nothing's actually happening. But like, there is kind of this idea of sort of action, processing, and then reaction, or this idea where it's kind of like sometimes characters need to process a little bit before they can take their next step. So if something big has happened, you have some time to let it breathe and let there be a reaction before the next thing's happened. So there's a rhythm there. But I will say, if you're thinking about whether to cut a scene, ask, what is this scene doing? Like, why is it in here? Is there something else in my script that's already doing this? What would happen if I cut it out? And the answer might be, if I cut it out, we're going from one thing to the other thing too quickly. And we need a pause. And so that can be fine. Or it could be like, nothing's really happening. The scene's just kind of an idea I fell in love with a long time ago, and the story kind of changed. And this is kind of like a vestigial organ, like, having a tail when you don't need a tail anymore. And then in scenes themselves, sometimes the question is like, if it's like, there's this idea of like, start your scene as late as you can and end it as soon as you can, basically. Like, what's the point of the scene? When does it need to start? It usually starts because a character wants something. And then it ends kind of when they've failed or not. So it's like, can you cut the end of the scene? Maybe you can get out of there quicker. So again, like Pietro said, there's no like hard and fast rules for it, because there's so many different things, but those are some ideas I think that you can think of. Brian had a great sprint. Build around your C&D stories to make the final product graphic cool. Susan, this is just like a very fundamental question. When you get a new idea, how do you know if it can really work as a film? And in your view, can any idea become a film if it's shaped with the right creative approach? So 2 different things. I will say is that sometimes the worst answer to the first question is sometimes you found out after you've worked on it for a long time and you're like, oh, this doesn't work at all. So it's hard. I mean, I think there are some things we can talk about in the beginning to see if there is a movie, but like sometimes it's just like it seems promising and you just hit a wall and then you just have to move on. And maybe later you'll come back and figure out a key to that. But sometimes you don't. Pietro, how do you know if you have an idea if it can work as a film?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Susan, she's one of our students in the Write for Animation Academy,
nice.
which is a membership where we write together, like very similarly to these, get each other feedback. And she's been great. She has great ideas and stories and always great questions. I think that one thing to keep in mind is that this is a visual medium. It's audiovisual, but some ideas are more prone to something that it doesn't translate really well to the screen. In animation, for example, you could do like different versions of Inside Out with different ideas. What if emotions were all characters, and then you start playing with similar things, but not all those ideas they really translate visually. So that could be, and that in live action that works as well. So that could be one of the things to keep in mind, especially because I know Susan is exploring animation a lot, and would it be interesting to see is that, and also for you as a writer, because you're going to spend a lot of time on this, and so a suggestion is never trying to chase something that it's cool or something that you think it's going to be trendy and that it's going to work unless you find that deep connection. And that deep connection with the characters will, if you focus more on the characters than the idea, then you'll fall in love with them. And then even if you work for a while with one idea and then you realize it doesn't work, nobody's going to take away those characters from you. Zootopia used to be completely different, but the Jared Bush shared in one of the interviews we had that he was able to focus so much on these two characters that even they took them away from the original story, dropped them into a completely new concept, and it still worked because that spark, the energy between the two of them would still work. So I think focusing on character is always often the solution to many of the screenwriting problems that we have.
Yeah. I would also say, just kind of for the second question, that, I mean, I can't give just a firm yes or no, but I will say that I do think that sometimes it's not right. An idea might not be right for a movie. And two kind of scenarios I can think of that is, one, it's just not big enough. Like, it's a smaller story. It's more of a moment in time than a journey or like something big enough for a film. And I think sometimes it could be a short. It could be like a short film, but maybe not a feature. The other thing is sometimes it might be a TV show, a series, right? Something. It's more about exploring a world in going on a journey, exploring a central idea sort of through different ways over time versus telling one kind of open and shut story about it. So sometimes I will say, that I think there are some ideas that just work maybe better as something else in some other form. All right. So
an example very, very quickly of that came from one of the explorations of a project I was working on. It was the idea of a character with a superpower of being able to read people's mind. That can work, but it's not as visual as a character that is able to do something else, because reading people's mind all the time throughout a series, for example, that's going to involve a lot of voiceover maybe, or how do you hear, how do you really, I mean, you can find clever ways, but it's going to be a lot of audio instead of visual things. And so you're going to have all these scenes where you're listening to the thoughts. So one thing is that you put that, I think they have something similar in Heroes, the superhero series, and it can work. It has been done and it works. But if it's your central idea, maybe it's not as visual as something else.
Awesome. All right, we're going to jump into our second writing sprint. We'll answer some more questions after this one. We're running a little late today just because we've had some awesome discussion and some awesome questions. That often happens when you have a guest on. You do a little more talking. When it's just me here rambling, get to the sprints faster. So we're going to jump now into the 25-minute writing sprint. I call this one kind of the Cinderella writing sprint, or like the Goldilocks. Actually, not Cinderella. That makes no sense. The Goldilocks writing sprint. Because it's just right. You're warmed up from the first writing sprint and you're not tired yet. So this is our Goldilocks writing sprint. I'm going to put 25 minutes on the clock, play some more music, and we're going to get into it. And then we'll come back and chat a little bit on the other side, although we are running a little late today. But 25 minutes on the clock, everybody. Pull up your script, get ready to go. Pietro, ready for a little more writing? You've already muted yourself, so yes, you are. Awesome. Here we go. 25 minutes on the clock, everybody. Catch you on the other side. And that brings us to the end of the 25-minute writing sprint. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the land of not writing. This is Let's Write Scripts. I'm Mike Acrady, the head of writing at Arc Studio, joined by our special guest today, Pietro Schito from Write for Animation. Thank you, everyone who's writing with us. I want to know how that writing sprint went. If you were struggling with the first sprint, did things turn around? Did the muses show up? If you were doing well in the first sprint, did the muses abandon you? Let me know in the chat. And we're kind of over time a little bit, which is cool. But if you have to leave, please say farewell in the chat and let us know how it went. Pietro, how did that sprint go for you?
It went well. I fell into a trap where I discovered that something I thought it made sense, it didn't make any sense. And so, but I was able to find a solution that's actually making the whole scene better.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was good for me too as well. I kind of just like kept up the momentum and I think kind of closed off the thing that I was working on in the first sprint. We're actually kind of over time, so I think we're just gonna probably do the 2 sprints today since we're already 5 minutes over, so we're not gonna do another one. But I wanted just to share so I do something called the sandwich of the week, where every week I show the best looking sandwich that I made, and just to give you guys a taste of, if you're new, of like what that looks like. This was last week's sandwich, which was a beauty on classic or country sourdough with chicken and salami and avocado. And yeah, I get very into my sandwiches. This was the wait, I was going to show you another one. I'll just say that, like, wait, where'd it go? I don't know. That was the week before. A lot of dappled light. It's beautiful. So I do that. This week, though, it's a little different. Instead of a sandwich of the week, I'm doing a taco of the week, because I had some amazing tacos this week. It's one of the beauties of living in Los Angeles, and Pietro is in Guadalajara, so I imagine also has access to some pretty good tacos.
Yeah.
But this is me eating a taco dorado de camarón, a golden shrimp taco, or a crispy fried shrimp taco, at a place in LA called Mariscos Jalisco, which is in the Boyle Heights neighborhood, which is known for its tacos. And it's one of the best tacos in LA. And this was absolutely fantastic. It's a place that I've been wanting to go to for like years, but they close at 6 p.m. and I always want to go there for dinner, and it's always too late. But this time my wife and I went for lunch, and it was absolutely fantastic. So if you're in LA ever, Mariscos Jalisco in Boyle Heights, this is the taco of the week.
And Jalisco is the state of where Guadalajara is.
Oh, well, there you go. See, there's a connection there between it. I think the family that runs this is from Jalisco, and that's why there is there. Yes, love. I was a carnivore. I am definitely a carnivore. Had me at tacos. It's become a thing where it's like I love tacos, but like recently, because LA is like in California, there are kind of towns that are more burrito towns and towns that are more taco towns. Like San Diego and San Francisco are burrito towns, and LA is a taco town. And so I've been kind of going to some of the top ones recently, and it's like a fun journey just to like explore the city by eating tacos. So Pietro, we are at the end of our time here. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything in particular you want to mention? Gerhard, I think, actually mentioned maybe an upcoming event. You have some more Q&As coming up. Anything else that people who are interested in animation could expect from Write for Animation?
Well, there's so much going on that we're preparing, so definitely visit writeforanimation.com. We have a lot of free resources there, and there's a freebie section. We have guides on character, guides on structure, even the beat sheets from Finding Nemo. There's a lot that you can get for free. All our videos are available on YouTube for free. One thing that's coming is a full interview with the creators of K-pop Demon Hunters, which is about to get to become the #1 most watched film on Netflix ever. So it's incredible, and it's a great film to watch to learn screenwriting. So yeah, get over to writeforanimation.com and grab some freebies there, and reach out anytime.
Fantastic. And I want to thank people. I know we had some people joining from Write for Animation who are asking questions. I want to thanks for checking out Let's Write Scripts. You are welcome back next week. I'll be hosting solo. But yeah, do this every week at 1 p.m. Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific. There's a link to RSVP in the chat, or you can just show up to the Arc Studio Screenwriting channel at 1 p.m. I'm also doing a lot of videos every week. Every Monday, there's a new video. On Monday, 2 days ago, I dropped one that is, I'm doing this new thing called script study where I'm kind of taking deep dives at certain scripts and aspects of storytelling. So I just released one on episode 207 of The Bear on a couple scenes that are very pivotal in Cousin Richie's turning point and his character development. You can check those out. And on Monday, I have a video coming about world building in Alien, how they do it, what kind of lessons can be learned for all types of writers. So I hope to see y'all next week. Next week, it'll be just me. And so less chatting. We'll be doing 3 writing sprints. So it'll be a little more writing, but I'll still be answering questions from the chat, and you're welcome back. So Pietro, do you want to before we sign off, any parting words of wisdom or encouragement to our audience?
Write, just write. Show up every Monday, every session here with Micah. This is amazing, and write the bad version, write the vomit draft, write the thing that it's not gonna be perfect, but keep writing.
Fantastic. All right, everyone, that is it from us. We're going to sign off. Pietro, hang out for just a second. And everyone else, I hope to see you next week. Please be kind to yourselves and happy writing. Farewell, everybody. See you guys later.